Here we are on the porch of the Gemeine house. We have the loaves of bread, 13 in all, on the table. There probably will be very little rising now until we actually put the bread in the oven. But they look nice. And this is actually just part of what we can put in the bake oven. Our bake oven, which is simply a typical bake oven, will hold up to 20 of these large loaves of bread. So again, you can see how the bake oven supplied the nutrition needs of a large extended family in this area. Here we are, half an hour after we started the fire. It's burning very, very well. The fire is going the length of the bake oven. I'm going to put some more wood here in the front again to try and heat these bricks near the opening. Towards the back, we have a solid curtain of flame all the way to the flue, which is at the very back of the oven. So I'm going to put a little more wood in right now. Put some here in the front. I don't know how well you can see this, but the smoke is coming up and it's filling the top of the roof here, which is fine. A little bit more wood. All right, there we go. We'll be back in half an hour. Here we are in the summer house. We're going to be preparing 3 different things this morning as in preparation for putting things together later on. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to plump up some raisins for our apple and raisin pie. So we're going to take a cup of dried raisins, put them in a pan, and just cover them. With water, probably a couple of pints or so of water. Just break them up. Now we're going to set that aside to heat. We used to use wood heat. I'm so glad we have propane now. It's made a really big difference. Now the next thing we're going to do is I need to boil 1 cup of water into which we're going to put 3 teaspoons of soda. We're going to use the water and soda mixture in 2 different recipes today, for the black joe cake and also for the whippy pies. I learned through very, very sad experience that you really need to put the soda into boiling water before you add it to the recipe. I mentioned earlier the wood stove. That's all we had in our early years here was a wood stove. And when I was baking, I simply didn't have time to come in here and spend half an hour trying to start the fire, keeping the fire going while doing the bake oven as well. So I took the liberty of simply adding the baking soda directly into the Black Joe cake recipe, particularly the Black Joe cake recipe, without putting it in boiling water, thinking it was a needless thing to do. Every time the Black Joe cake would blow up in the oven, and I mean that literally. After the hour of baking, I would open up the oven, and there would be the there would be the Black Joe cake in pieces all around the pan. It was not a pretty sight. At first, I thought something must be wrong with the recipe. It took me years. And in fact, I actually gave up on making the Black Joe cake for a decade because I couldn't figure out what I was doing wrong. What I was doing wrong was I was not preparing the boiling water with the soda. The soda and the water activate before you put it into the recipe. And that's what you want to do. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a cup of water, we're going to turn it on. I'm going to take 3 teaspoons of baking soda and add it to the water. We're going to bring that to a boil. This will cause the baking soda to activate before it goes into the main recipe, and that will prevent our Black Joe cake from blowing up. Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to prepare the filling for the shoe fly pie. There are basically 2 kinds of shoe fly pie. There is a wet bottom shoe fly pie which has a distinct layer of molasses. There's also a dry bottom shoe fly pie which doesn't have any separate layer, but the molasses is absorbed by the topping. Well, I love the gooey wetness of a wet bottom shoe fly pie, but there are certain things you need to do to ensure as much as humanly possible that as little of the molasses filling is absorbed by the topping as possible. So here's what we're going to do. First of all, we're going to heat some molasses and water together. I'm going to take 3/4 of a cup of water, combined with 1 1/4 cups of molasses. Now, the molasses I get in a 5-gallon bucket like this. The quality of your molasses is critical to a good shoe fly pie. The fact that you're using molasses at all shows that you're using a traditional recipe. The problem with most shoe fly pies is that for what we call the tourist trade, far too many shortcuts are made. Instead of using molasses, for example, they will use corn syrup, which adds a sticky sweetness to it. Instead of butter or lard, they will use shortening. But when you're dealing with a pie that only has 5 ingredients anyway, flour, sugar, molasses, butter, I'm trying to think, maybe there are only 4 ingredients, I can't think right now. But anyway, the point is, you have so few ingredients that the quality and the tastiness of every ingredient is critically important. A commercial shoe fly pie typically has so many shortcuts that it's very bland, tasteless, and useless to eat. It's simply not a traditional shoe fly pie. So here's what we're going to do. My molasses is an unsulfured baking molasses. Sulfur is a byproduct of the process of making molasses. It adds a really sharp and strong bite that you get from, say, Brer Rabbit molasses or New Orleans molasses. I find that very difficult. And I'm from the South. I'm from Mobile, Alabama, but New Orleans molasses with sulfur is just too strong for me. I strongly urge you to get an unsulfured baking molasses, which many supermarkets carry, as well as specialty food stores. I get this from Zook Molasses Company down in Honeybrook, which is on the edge of Lancaster and Chester counties. It used to be called Zook Molasses Company, and I guess they were founded by Mennonites, I'm not sure. When you would call Zook Molasses Company, the first thing they would ask you is animal or human, meaning animal grade or human grade molasses. Well, being naive and suspicious, naturally, I assumed that they were basically selling the same type of molasses for animal feed and human grade, and simply charging 5 times as much for the human grade. Well, that was far from true, because one time I did see the animal grade molasses, which is used for feed, to sweeten animal feed, like cattle feed. Oh, it's horrible. I mean, it's just, it's so gross. It's something that only a cow could love. So anyway, we use the unsulfured baking molasses, and we're going to use 1 1/4 cups of it. It's so sticky, I'm going to try and get it without spilling anything on the stove. Now, the water is boiling for the soda, so we're going to set that aside. That's done. The water is boiling under the raisins. We're going to set that aside and let them plump up. We're going to start the heat under the water for the shoofly pie. The reason you heat the molasses and the water is to help them combine. So we're going to use this ladle. We'll put a cup in. I really wish you could be here to smell this, because it is a truly remarkable scent. We're going to put, that was almost a cup, so I'll make sure the 1/4 cup is probably more like 1/3 of a cup. Amazingly sticky stuff, this molasses. Oops, there we go. Of course, the great thrill here is you can take your finger and wipe out the cup. Put it into the pan, the pot, and then, that is really good. See if I can wipe my chin here. All right. Now, while that is heating, we're going to show you the secret to keeping the filling from being absorbed by the topping. I'm going to wash my hands and I'll be right back.